generation profiles. So there's a couple of good stories here, and I'll stick with these. So Giorgio Armani, it's a wonderful customer up in New York City for the States and in Italy, overseas. We've been working with them for, I guess, a couple of years now, a little bit more than that. So here was the question. You know, 2008 brought some pretty tough times to all luxury manufacturers. And the question was, how well do I know my customer in order to continue the loyalty and the dialogue? Now, this is not about macaroni and cheese. This is about, you know, l'amore, as they say, love and beauty, and there's a whole other dimension to what you're selling here. But when I say next generation profiles, what we brought into the profile were two new components. One was predictive modeling. We went out, we looked at the top, now the way, this is old-fashioned, but that's how they did it. They looked at tiers of customers by the top 5% that spend, the next 5% that spend, and they had 20 tiers of 5% each. And you sit back and says, at least I said, what does it tell you? It tells you some people spend money and others don't, but does that tell you that those that don't couldn't or shouldn't? So we started to look at the top 20% of the customers, took out the Rockefellers and those types that will automatically buy the best clothing, so we didn't buy a sampling, and locked on some subset of the 20 and clustered them and looked at what is unique about them. Did the data overlays, demographic, psychographic, behavioral, transactional, you know, we did it properly. Modeled it out and got a pretty good feeling for what's the right buyer profile for Giorgio Armani. Took that profile and said, are there any customers in the top 20 that have a similar profile but are not spending like that profile that buys a lot? In fact, we found quite a few. So the question now becomes, what processes and tools and sales do we put into place to drive those that are not buying like the, let's say, the top 5% to buy like the top 5% that have the same profile? We also took that same profile and looked at the bottom 80%. And said, are there any people down there that maybe got a Giorgio Armani gift certificate, that bought something once but never bought it back, that actually have the same profile as the top 20 or the top 5, that we could induce through sales and processes and systems to engage with Giorgio Armani? We done an acquisition campaign, said, okay, well, hang on, we got the profile. Let's go out and rent the list from Elle and Vogue and GQ and figure out who is our profile and target messages to them so they'll come in and buy Giorgio Armani products. So that was one new thing, the predictive modeling, and that was quite new to Armani and the Italians. And I told you I'm married to an Italian, so I can tell you this and joke about it. So but the second one was more impressive, though. We sat there in a brainstorming session in New York City with all these beautiful people, and they are very beautiful at work for Armani. And we said, what should be in the profile? And we came up with the concept of the closet. I said, the closet? What do you mean the closet? Well, if you knew on one of the pedals I showed you earlier on what was in the closet of a Giorgio Armani buyer, not Giorgio Armani clothes, Giorgio Armani clothes and all the competitive clothes, would I be in a better position to recommend clothes to the Giorgio Armani customer, saying, you know that beautiful black slacks from Chanel or Armani or whatever, I got this new pink top and I really think it would fit, come on in and we'll try it. So the ability now not only to have the transactional and emotional side coming from Giorgio Armani blogs and forums and discussions, but to bring the actual closet inside the profile, now that's next generation. Marriott Corporation. The question is, if you're how many are Marriott Reward members? Just raise of hands. Yeah, it's a good program, isn't it? So we're sitting back thinking, well, first of all, thank you for your business, but we're thinking, what is it that should be in the profile about you for the next 3 years? We're doing a 2012, 13, 14 roadmap right now. And it raises these types of questions. Does Marriott ask you enough questions about what you want from Marriott when you visit a Marriott property? And we think not. Do you know enough about Marriott brands and what's actually, you know, the kind of the image, what's called the branding image, such that you would actually have comfort in moving from one property to the next? If you stay at Ritz-Carlton, which is owned by Marriott, on business, and you stay at Courtyard for pleasure or Residence Inn with your family, do we look at you as one customer or two parts of one customer? And do we make different offers based on that profile? And this is the exercise they're going for right now. And the question is, and that's why I want to call about a next generation, is how much information do we bring in from Flyer Talk and all the various social sites where you either like or dislike the hotels you stay at and talk about it. You know, there's lots of different places, TripAdvisor and so forth. So the profile, we're in the middle of, we're not quite done. At the end of June, we'll be done. And that will lock on that, and we'll build the profile for the next 3 years. But this next generation profile of not just the transactional, not just the social CRM piece, the emotional, but the, you know, what's new, what's different, what will differentiate that company from the next, whether it's the closet for Armani or whatever it may be for Marriott. Second trend.